안녕하세요 여러분. So today I feel so much better. I am not sick anymore and I just wanted to thank all of you out there who wished me to get better soon. As for what we're going to be talking about today, there is quite a lot that I want to cover, so I want to just dive straight into it. I've got a similar type of question from quite a few of you guys where you asked me when and how do we use politeness levels or formality levels in Korean. From the way I picked it up when I was learning on my own, I just kind of saw three main levels of formality, and I'm using formality rather than politeness, even though politeness is a more kind of accepted term. Is that to me it's really not about how polite you are, because you can speak 반말, which is the lowest politeness level, and still be quite polite in the way you speak and your intonation and your body language and stuff, or you can be super rude and speak 존댓말. It is all about how formal you want it to sound, so I'm going to be using the phrase levels of formality rather than levels of politeness. But for those of you who learned it that way, just know that that is what I mean. Okay? Cool. So there are three levels, and two of them are part of 존댓말, and the last one, the lowest one, is 반말. And generally in the highest level of formality, your sentence would end on 비읍니다, like 행복합니다, 고맙습니다, 사랑합니다. In the second level of politeness, which is still 존댓말, and this is something that you use quite often in just daily Korean, your verbs would be ending on a 요. For example, 가요, 읽어요, 앉아요, 수영해요, 사랑해요, 고마워요, etc, etc. And with 반말, you would just kind of not have any ending, any special formality adding ending. So you would just say 가 or 앉아, 행복해, 심심해. Interestingly, in Korean, verbs and adjectives kind of have similar qualities. Even though in English we have quite a big distinction between verbs and adjectives, in Korean they all conjugate in this similar fashion, so that I found quite interesting. So if you guys want me to elaborate on conjugation a bit more, I will gladly make a future video about that. Now moving on to when do we actually use 반말 and when we use 존댓말. The instances where you can use 반말 is when you are much older than the person that you're talking to and you know for a fact that they're not going to get offended. For example, if you're 30 years old and you're talking to a child who's like 10 or whatever, you can easily talk to them in 반말 like it's a kid. So yeah, you can speak 반말 to pretty much anyone as long as you get their permission. And we will look into how to ask permission and how to kind of ask someone to speak casually to you later on in the video. That's pretty much it for when you can use 반말. You should use 존댓말 when you are in a work environment and with people who you only work with. So the people that you only have a work relationship with. Also, even if someone is younger than you, but they are your customer, you again shouldn't use 반말 because you want to show your respect. Also, if they're your business partners, you would also want to speak to them in 존댓말. I've heard of instances where people are close friends outside of work and they know each other quite well, but when they get into like this work setting where they're really getting deep into the business or whatever, they're starting to speak in 존댓말 to each other just to emphasize the importance of this working atmosphere and that it's not casual and that no one's taking it lightly. So to me that was quite interesting. That's what I really like about Korean language. You can create an atmosphere or create a relationship or feelings using just your language. It's quite fascinating, I think. Another instance is when you are strangers. You just met someone and they're stopped you on the street and they're asking you for directions. Personally, even if they would be much younger than me, I would still talk to them in 존댓말, just again, not to show that I'm trying to be polite towards them, which I am, but also trying to show the boundary that I'm not going to be speaking informally to you because we don't know each other. There's this kind of like emptiness between us. So I am just going to be speaking to you formally because I don't know you. As soon as we're done talking, we're going to go about our day. But yeah, it's really up to you. If you're much older and you're in your 40s or whatever and a 20-year-old approaches you, you could speak to them in 반말, but personally I wouldn't. No one is ever going to get offended if you speak to them in 존댓말 because that's kind of the least formal but still kind of showing people respect kind of way of speaking. So yeah, you're more likely to make people comfortable with you speaking to them formally rather than informally. Another way where you should use 존댓말 would be when you are younger and you're speaking to someone who's older than you, it kind of doesn't really matter if you know them quite well or not. I feel like if they didn't give you permission to speak to them in 반말, I think it would be wiser to speak to them in 존댓말. When it comes to age in Korea, a lot of people say that Koreans put a lot of emphasis on age, and that's true because till now we've been talking about how you speak to others when they're older than you, younger than you, the same age, whatever. So Koreans do put a lot of emphasis on age when it comes to formality and the way they speak, but social status beats age in that sense. So if someone is younger than you but they are of a higher social status, or they're your boss, you will have to speak to them in 존댓말 because otherwise that's just a no-no unless you got their permission. So yeah, that's how it works. Lastly, if you're in a large group of people or you are making a vlog like I am right now, if I would be speaking to you guys in Korean, I would be using 존댓말. I would be formal with you because we don't really know each other, and I'm here to give you guys information and to help you guys, so I would be using a formal way of speaking rather than an informal one. Now I'll just give you a couple of examples where I will say something in a formal way and then informal way to just kind of give you guys a sense of what the difference really sounds like. So if I want to ask, oh, what is this? And I'm intending to speak formally, I would say 이거 뭐예요? If you guys notice, I add the 요 at the end to make it more polite, more formal. If I just kind of asking someone who's my age or a very close friend, I'm just gonna ask them 이거 뭐야? Instead of doing the whole polite 예요 ending, I'm just saying yeah, just very casually, very informally. Same thing with something like if I'm saying that I met a friend yesterday, I can say 어제 친구 만났어요? Which again is formal, using 존댓말 because there's a 요 at the end, or I can just say 친구 만났어, which does not have any kind of ending, no honorifics, just kind of 만났어, 만났어. And yeah, that would mean that I'm being informal and using 반말. So yeah, these are the kind of two different ways you can say it. There is a third level of politeness, which is very honorific, which is something you should use with elderly or very in very formal situations, and that is using the 비옵니다 ending. Like if I want to say that it's very nice to meet you in a very polite way, I would say 만나서 반갑습니다 with the 입니다 ending, and yes, that's very polite. I can say 만나서 반가워요, or I can say 만나서 반가워. I've never really heard anyone say that because when you're saying that it's nice to meet you, you're implying that you just met that person, so you're not yet friends or acquaintances, or just kind of you don't yet know each other that well. So using 반말 would kind of be weird in that situation, so I've never heard that being said, but still, for the sake of an exercise, there are three main levels of formality. When it comes to names, there is also two different ways that you can either address someone in 존댓말 or in 반말. So I'm a very avid fan of Running Man. Just to guys give you an example of some Korean names that I can either say formally or informally, I'm just going to be using the names of the cast of Running Man to show you the difference between how to address someone formally or politely and kind of very casually. So if I'm a fan and I've never met them and I really just love them so much that I want to talk to them, I would say their names like 광수-씨, adding the "씨" at the end, or 지효-씨, or 정국-씨, 재석-씨, 석진-씨, 게리-씨, all these names, adding the "씨" at the end makes it polite. If, for example, I am their PD, and let's imagine I'm very old and very experienced and they're old kids for me, I would refer to them in 반말, and I would say 지효야, or 정국아, 하하야, 게리야, you know, 광수야, adding the ya at the end. That's the way I would talk to them if I would be very old and experienced PD that works with them. I wish. And lastly, we talked a lot about permission. At the end of the day, it's very important to know whether a person gave you permission to speak to them formally or informally. That can really be the deciding factor of whether your work relationship or friendship is actually going to go in the right direction, or that person is going to be weirded out by you and not talk to you. So here are a couple of ways you can ask permission, whether you're older, younger, the same age. I kind of try to include all. So if you are older, want to ask permission to speak to someone who's younger than you in a more polite way. So in that case, maybe they're of a higher social status, maybe you don't know them that well, but you kind of still feel like you want to speak to them in 반말 just because it's easier and it's more casual and you're older. So you can ask 말 놓아도 돼요? 말 놓아도 돼요? Which literally translates to can I lower my language? Because 놓다 means to lower something or to bring it down. So by asking them 말 놓아도 돼요? You are asking if you can speak to them in a less formal way and lower your language, kind of, literally. Or you can say something like 말 편하게 해도 돼요? You can ask something like this, and that means 말 is speech, 편하게 is comfortable, 해도 돼요 is can I do? So literally it means can I speak to you comfortably? Can I speak to you casually? If you are younger and you want to say to someone who's older, like, yeah, don't worry, you know, you don't have to use honorifics. You can say something like, 말 놓으셔도 돼요? You're giving someone permission to speak to you informally. Also, similarly as in the first example, you can say, 말 편하게 하셔도 돼요. 말 편하게 하셔도 돼요? Which means, yes, you can speak to me comfortably. We're using 편하게 again, which means comfortable in Korean, so yes. Lastly, if you are the same age and you're just kind of agreeing, like, yeah, we should speak informally to each other, right? Yeah? That's totally okay, right? So in that way, you can just say 우리말 놓을까요? Which you're just saying 우리 is ours, 말 speech, 놓을까요? Like, let's lower our speech, basically. Or you can say 말 편하게 해도 되죠? You're just kind of asking, oh, should we speak comfortably to each other? And then if the person agrees, they can just say instead of 네, which kind of means that they are agreeing to speak comfortably with you. Alright, I know that was kind of a lot of information for one video, guys, but I hope you managed to understand a bit of it. I hope I explained it well. If you didn't understand something, please make sure to leave your comments in the comment section below and I'll try to answer them. All of you teachers and native Korean speakers, please feel free to leave your suggestions and your knowledge in the comment section as well, because I'm also a student and I'm always trying to learn new things. And yeah, that's it for today. I hope you guys all have a wonderful upcoming weekend, and I will see you on Monday with my new cover. Yay! Bye! 안녕!